I went through 3 or 4 of these towels right on this corner right here, and it's still coming up dark. Make sure that you pay a lot of attention to the corners of the room and go over it again and again until you don't see it anymore. It's almost off now. I had to do this maybe like 20, 30 times. If I take a rag and I go underneath the radiators like this, look what's back. So I just cleaned this 6 months ago, and then I went to the other rooms. And so when the mold continues to return again and again and again, this is probably one of the places it'll return from, underneath the radiator. Because the radiators are a source of heat and often water. Because water runs through these pipes to heat the house. So you're going to need to remove the front of this to clean and get to the grates. Alright, sometimes these have a little latch down here. It's like a little metal prong that you could bend out. It just goes up there and kind of hugs onto it, and it locks this onto the other part of the heating vent cover. But for the most part, these just come out like that. Then they are also connected down here. So all you want to do is just pull it straight out like that. Then this just lifts off. And this part just hooks on here and here. And then you want to take a permanent marker and write something here so that you know what room this came out of and in what order. So I'm going to write living room 1. And I'll also write that on the other side there. And then I'll go for the next one here and call that LR2. Then LR3, and so forth. So I would take a towel, and you could put the towel underneath the radiator like this. Now you do not clean the radiator like this when it is winter and this is on. You want to wait until it's fall, spring, or summer where you can turn it off, because you don't want to get a bunch of water inside here while this thing is running. And you get your spray bottle. And the first thing you do is you mist the whole thing down. You use the mist, the spray part. And you will mist the whole radiator down through the whole thing. about a foot. I think they're around 30 or 40. And then you want to stand them back up so they drain correctly. So these are a little bit longer. And the best thing to use is a sheetrock knife, a putty knife. And you put it between the plates, and then you could bend it all together. If you see, there's 3 water pipes. One running here, one in the middle, and one on this side. So if you could get the putty knife kind of on top of all 3, it'll bend that blade as a unit, and then they go up kind of straight. I did that, they're going up very straight. But if you tend to try to move it with your hand, like I did in the other room, they're too long and they will not go back straight. They'll get bent like that. So like anything else, use that to bend it open, and then spray the cleaner into that area with a focus on the 3 pipes here. What you want to do is, before you start bending the plates, you want to make sure that you spray the chemical to give it time to work and start dissolving that junk. And most of the junk will appear on those water pipes. So you could also change it so it's a stream, and you just go really quickly above the pipe, and you could honestly shoot off most of the junk just by going over it quickly like that. So do all 3. And then while you're working to do that, it's going to slowly dissolve the stuff here. So by the time you get to opening the plates on this side, all that stuff will wash off a lot easier. So it's going to be harder getting underneath here. Alright, so basically what happened here is that it's very difficult to get underneath the radiator. This is too long and there's no leverage. So what I'm doing is just putting the spray bottle underneath it, and I'm shooting up at the bars. I'm shooting up at the pipes. Most of the material is going to be clinging to that pipe. So if you turn the spray bottle upside down and spray up going across, you just have to watch out for your eyes. Make sure that you do not spray that in your eyes. And you're going to have to keep it filled up, because when you put it on the ground, the tube is not going to reach the water. And if you turn the jet between a spray and the jet, you kind of get a jet spray, and it'll knock all the material down that you just kind of shot up. These are the vent covers. They come off real easy, and what you want to do is probably take off one at a time, one room at a time, so you do not get confused with where each part goes. Then you want to take the CLR cleaner, make your solution, and spray this all down and let it sit there. And you could do that a couple of times because it's going to dry like within a half hour or hour. Then you go back like everything else and you spray and you wipe off the excess with the towel until it comes pretty clean. So it'll come off black and then gray, and then you won't see much, and then you got most of the mold off of that. There's also a lip right in here. And you want to go with the screwdriver inside the towel and get all through there. So when I'm wiping down the front of these heaters, layers of this gray stuff is coming off. And it's not simply like dirt that's on there. It's like a coating of grease. And it takes like 4 or 5 towels for each one of these things to get it clean. So this is definitely like a grease, like a coating. And if you look at it, it's gray. Alright, as you can see, I got all the heater vent covers off the heaters. They're in the yard here. And there's no way to soak these in a tub without constructing something. So I used wall block to form the perimeter of a makeshift pool. I just wanted to make sure that the longest heater cover could fit in there without a problem. Then I got a pretty big tarp. It's about 12 by 15. And that way I could double it over here. I could fold it in half so that it won't leak any water. So I'll use that to put on top of this. I'll fill it up with bleach and water, and then I'll be able to soak all of these. But as you can see, they've applied some sort of wax, and the wax has mold in it, and it is not coming off too well even with the CLR. I could spray it and use the towels on this 100 times, but the stuff is still coming off. Now, when I first cleaned these about a year ago, in some places the wax was on so thick it looked like someone spilled a candle in the heater. I thought maybe like a candle fell off a table at some point and got in the heater. But what it looks like is a gray wax, and the military mixes that with a mold and they apply that to your heaters, and they'll put that on wood The doors and the floor of that shed were covered with that same wax. All right, next I want to be able to fold that over this if it rains. So I want to put bricks or rocks or something to hold this on the concrete wall block here. And I'll get inside. And press down on all the corner. Next, I'm going to fill it up with water and make sure it holds water so that I don't add bleach and it just ends up getting wasted. So at first I thought about getting a pool, but you're not going to find a pool that will fit this thing in most likely, especially the round plastic pools. So it's best to make your own. The only thing that you want to be cautious of is when you get the wall block, you might have to take a few trips with the car. When you put these into your car or van or truck, you just want to keep an eye on the shocks and make sure that they don't go too far down on the wheel well. You just keep an eye on the space between your tire and the frame of the car, and you don't want to sink the car so that it is the tire looks like it's taking up the whole wheel well, because once you and your family get into that car, that adds an extra, 2, 4, 6, 700 extra pounds, and you might break an axle. So you might want to take a few different trips to pick up these wall blocks, or you could just use whatever you could find around the yard. So that looks about full. I'm going to use about 6 or 7 cups of this bleach due to the fact that this is some of the weaker stuff that does not have a lot of chlorine in it. When you get bleach on your hand and you smell your hand, once the bleach kind of dries, it should smell a little bit like baking soda. This stuff has no smell at all. My guess is that they're removing some of the chlorine and they're adding some alternative whitener to it. So the bleach is weaker now. Be careful with the corner, that's real sharp when you put these things in. All right, starting to rain. So we want to pull this forward to cover it up. So as I pull this forward, I'm just going to take the wall block that was right here and place it on the end to kind of hold it. So I kind of had that as a back. The only thing is when you cover it up, you want to make sure that the front is secured so it does not come off in case it starts raining. I emptied out all the water. I rinsed off the tarp, put it back together the same way, and I used 1/2 of these bottles and about 8 cups of bleach. Once again, I'm going to fill it up so these are submerged and then cover it up because there's still a bunch of stuff on these vent covers. So this is the 3rd time I've done this. So the last 2 times I put a 1/2 bottle of CLR and about 7 or 8 cups of bleach. So I want to show how this starts to come off here. It's coming off of certain pieces quicker than other pieces here. Then it starts to come off, and what you'll see is rust appear. It looks like something like orange powder will form all on top. And you use a towel and you wipe it off, and underneath you'll start seeing a little bit of black, and underneath the black you'll see the color of metal, just of aluminum. See that blue color there? It'll start turning like an orange, start rusting off. So I've been soaking this for about 4 or 5 days now in this makeshift pool here, and you could see the orange rust coming off of it. So it looks like that after it comes out of that makeshift pool that I did. So then I just take the gloves, the rags, the spray it down, wipe the excess rust off. So that looks like that. And then I just spray paint both sides. They say to give it a coat, and then I think they said wait 4 hours before adding another coat. So when you have a longer piece like that, you could put it between 2 sawhorses. That way you could spray paint the top, and then you just go underneath it, and then spray paint the front part. So as you do this, you don't want to forget to do the sides, both sides, and then underneath this lip. And that is the part that fits onto that hook, and this hangs on the top of the radiator unit. So you want to make sure that it's painted inside that lip pretty good. So I would probably give it 2 coats. Spray paint both sides, wait 4 hours, then give it another coat. But for those of you who don't have much experience with spray painting, what you want to do is a series of short blasts. And that will make better use of the paint than just kind of holding it like this. I think that's going to be a waste of paint. I think you'll get better coverage if you go like that. And I did like half of these with like a paint can and a half by going like that. So you could try both ways and see which gives you better results. But I think that's the best way to do it. Alright, let's go talk about the paint tips if they're giving you problems. Alright? So the first thing that you want to do is remove that red stopper. Then take a pin and press it through. Let's push it right back on. See a better spray like that. See how that one is getting clogged up? So if it continues to give you trouble, go ahead and use one that is better. Just keep on switching the red rubber stopper if you have a paint can that isn't working as good as the first one is. So make sure the tips are open so they don't get clogged up real easy, especially when it starts getting colder, like in the fall. They might freeze up quicker than they would in the summer. So the new spray paint will smell. So if I were you, I would try to do this a good month or as long as you can before you need to use the heaters. And what you do is you spray paint it, give it 2 coats, and then stand it up somewhere, like downstairs in the basement or out of the way somewhere, and let it cure. And what happens is the smell will start to fade. It will smell pretty strong at first, but the smell will eventually fade. But anything is better than letting the lead paint slowly decompose and flake off into the air. So take a good look at the radiators in your house, and if you see a bluish gray paint on it, that's lead paint. If it looks like it's covered with a black wax, I would take it apart and soak it the way I did and see what you find underneath. Also, there are things that are sold on the internet that's marketed for lead paint, and this is one of the ones I found that Home Depot carry, and the guy could not answer too many questions, and I even called the manufacturer and they were equally unhelpful, and they did not know if it was good to use their product on metal. So I think this is marketed for people that have lead paint on their walls or something, and it just covers lead paint on walls. The guy said something like, if I were you, I would put a primer down and then paint over the primer with our product. I'm not going to pay all this money to buy lead paint cover from you guys if you just tell me to use a different paint underneath it. So this looks like it'll probably be the best thing to use. It says interior, exterior, rust stop, protective enamel. And it includes, it says direct to metal, no primer needed, dries in 30 minutes or less. So the rust stop is probably what you want to use. Okay, so what I was going to do is remove the back part of the heater unit here. Because it is painted with lead paint that is very noticeable, being colored a grayish blue. What I did not notice until I tried to take this off is that there is lead paint throughout the whole heater. If you look closely at it, you'll see the bluish gray paint all throughout these heating plates and all along the pipe. So there's lead paint throughout the whole system. So what you'll want to do is contact a plumber and have everything removed. It'll make no sense just to replace this. I initially thought that the only thing I needed to replace would be the heater case. But now that I realize that the lead paint is all the way through that would be a waste of time because the lead paint will still be on every one of these things. So you will have to contact a plumber and have everything removed if you find lead paint inside of your heater vents. At first, these appeared to be silver, especially on video. And when I looked closer at them, I realized that the whole thing was covered with lead paint. Now the sad thing about this is that the house inspector said specifically that it did not appear like my house had lead paint. But for an additional $400 or $500, he could do an official lead paint inspection. So I was already paying him something like $400 for the house inspection. And there were a lot of closing costs. Buying a house is expensive. So I did not want to pay double the amount for a lead paint inspection when he said that it did not appear like my house had lead paint. And I asked him, what do you do if you find lead paint in your house? And he said, usually you just paint over it and it'll be okay. It should be a general rule of house inspection that if a house was built before a certain year, the house inspector should inspect the heating vents to see if there's lead paint inside of them. It is this very identifiable grayish blue paint all on the inside of radiators. And once you know what to look for, you could very obviously spot lead paint. So it would take a house inspector about 30 seconds or a minute to find out if the house is dangerous because it contains lead paint in the heating system. So it is amazing that there are no laws concerning house inspections that will force these guys to take a minute and check the heaters for lead paint. That seems to me to be the primary reason why you'll hire one of these people, to see if there is hazardous paint in your house. But as for now, it is an afterthought and something you have to pay extra for, because in their preliminary search, these guys just seem to miss all the lead paint in the most dangerous place it could be, which is right next to your hydronic heater that operates with a hot water system. So that lead paint will be prone to rust, which is the most dangerous thing lead paint could do. And that is okay with the legal system and our government, that these guys are not required to tell you if you have hazardous lead paint in your heating system unless you pay them extra. So this goes beyond negligence to withhold information like this from homeowners unless they pay you extra. So the name of the house inspector is Stan Edmonds, and this is his license number and his address. And he'll take a look at your house and he'll tell you it does not appear to have lead paint in your house, but he could charge you double. He could charge you $400 more. Then he may or may not find the lead paint all throughout your heating system. So that's Stan Edmonds from Edmonds Home Spec in Keene, New Hampshire. So it gets even worse when you try to call a few of the professionals up at these different corporations and you have some questions for them about replacing the heating enclosures. And that is the full metal heater that goes around your heating pipe. So I went on the website and then I called customer service at Lowe's, at Home Depot, at supplyhouse.com. And then I recorded a conversation with a Paul, and he works for Vent and Cover. And that's a company that specializes in making heater covers. When I went to their website at ventandcover.com, the front page was filled with nothing but baseboard heaters, all different styles. So I gave him a call and I said I would like to replace the heating enclosures, but keep the pipes due to the fact that I do not have a lot of money and there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with the heating pipes. Ultimately, I thought I could save money by ordering these things and then installing them myself. So Paul seemed to know everything there was to know about heaters. He seemed like he was the expert at Vent and Cover, and he knew the product line very well and knew everything you needed to know about modifying heating systems. So what Paul neglected to tell me was that if you have lead paint on these heating enclosures, chances are there's going to be lead paint on every one of the blades and all along the pipe. You would think somebody that specializes in Vent and Cover would know a little bit about replacing heating systems that have lead paint. That should be a major selling point for Vent and Cover. You want to buy these products from us because if you have an old heating system, it may have lead paint in there. So you want to get rid of that and buy new from us. So why are they neglecting to tell their customers that? Why do these guys know nothing about lead paint? And the same is true if you call Lowe's, if you call Home Depot, if you call supplyhouse.com. You will get the same product line. They do not want to sell you new heating enclosures or know anything about the nature of lead paint on old heating systems, and that you got to rip the whole thing out and start new. What they do know a lot about is selling you a new face. That's the only thing Vent and Cover, Lowe's, and Home Depot had, was the faces. So they have a more modern looking cover to cover up the back plate and the heating pipe. So it looks like you have a new heater in there. But in fact, you are just hanging a new face over an ancient heating system that may be potentially hazardous to your health. I could remove all of that and not have to replace all the copper pipe.
Oh yeah. No, the copper and the heating fins are, they haven't changed in 50 years. It's the same technology.
Okay, so I just to make sure I got this right, you said $17 a foot basic aluminum, sir, or basic steel?
$17 a foot is for the cheapest, one, which is steel.
Okay.
And then the bump up, if you want to do the aluminum, is an additional $5 a foot.
Yeah, I don't like things that rust, so that's real important to me. So you said $22 a foot for basic aluminum, sir?
It's called the brand. The name of that product is Atlas or Titan. Both are aluminum. The difference between the two is just one has a cut edge, like a 90-degree, very defined edge, and the other one has a radius curve. You'll visually see them when you're on the website if you're clicking on baseboard covers. The Atlas is the first one that shows up. Are you near a computer right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. So if you go to our website,
okay,
ventandcover.com.
Okay, I'm on there now.
Okay, top left of the screen, there's a bar that goes across the top, but on the top left it says baseboard covers.
Okay.
So just click click on that, you'll get a drop-down menu, and then just select baseboard covers again.
Okay.
And then you should get everything populated, and the first pictures on the screen should be the Atlas.
Oh, I see. Okay. And they have the back part of that too. It's just not the cover. It's the whole enclosure, right?
So let's talk about that for a sec. So all of these are designed to clip onto the existing mounting backplate. So if you are intending to remove that plate for whatever reason, then you will need the wall brackets that are on site to hang our covers. You can find, if you go back to that, what you just clicked on the top there, the baseboard cover one, get the drop down again.
Okay.
And in that mix there, you'll see something that says end caps and accessories.
Right.
Click on that, and the first product that'll come up is going to be the wall bracket, I believe.
The wall bracket. Okay.
Okay, so you'll need to get, some of those for the lengths that you're getting. So if you want to pull down your existing backplate, absolutely. Number of wall brackets you'd need. So on sections that are 2, 3, and 4 foot, you just need 2 of them, one either end.
Okay.
5 and 6 feet, 3, and 7 or 8 feet, 4.
And you're saying they fasten just to the wall. You don't need a back plate?
No, those are just getting one screw. It'll come with a screw in that bracket, and you're going to place them at the desired height. Ideally, you want to leave 3/4 of an inch between the floor and the bottom of the panel.
Okay.
So these are 6 3/4 inches in height. So you're going to set the brackets at 7.5 inches.
Okay, that sounds good. One more time, you have an option to buy the back plate too, right?
No, we don't sell back plates.
Okay.
So what I'm just saying is that the product is designed to go over the pre-existing back plate.
Yeah, but it has lead paint on it, sir.
Yeah, you got to take them out then. Yeah. So with us, the only option I can give you is to use those brackets, those small brackets. Another option that you might have is that if you bought a new like a new enclosure, they call them a dummy enclosure. You could install a newer back plate and then hang our product off of it. But personally, I think that would be a waste of time when you could just use these small brackets to hang them. And when if you use our brackets, you just want to make sure you're getting into a stud, or if you can't get a stud, then just anchor them.
Okay, so you recommend that you don't need a back plate if you use those hangers that you're talking about, sinking them into a stud. You're saying that you don't need a back enclosure.
Yeah, I mean, the back plate is part of the old system. That was there, and the only real benefit, there's two benefits to having the back plate there. One is it's going to deflect some of the radiant heat back into the room, rather than being absorbed directly into the drywall or the sheetrock there. So that would be a benefit. The second benefit is you've got those hangers, right, that come off the back plate, and they help in supporting the pipe. So I don't know your particular situation, whether or not by removing those hangers, your pipe is going to sag. If it does, then you're going to have to look at some way of, supporting it. That could be getting some standard L brackets, from Lowe's or Home Depot, and using those to support. It's a personal decision. I would say that a good 10% of the installations that we ship to are with our wall brackets, and where the back plate's missing. So I've never had anybody ever come back and say their heating system is compromised because they don't have a back plate.
Okay, you've been real helpful, Paul. You know your stuff. Are you one of the top sales guys over there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good, bro.
The go-to guy that they put people through to. So yeah.
Well, you know the product line real well. My only question is, why don't you guys sell the dummy enclosures over there?
Well, the dummy enclosures are, not like we deal in niche products. So with that, and this product was, these products were designed to flip over the pre-existing. The majority of sales go to people who can use their backplates.
Right. Yeah, I was hoping not to have to change all the fins and the copper pipe.
Yeah,
I was
you don't want to do that because then you're going to have to call a plumber, and you know how much those guys are.
Yeah, so I was hoping just to replace the enclosure, but if you're saying that by removing the enclosure, the pipes are going to sag down a little bit, I don't want to have something that will end up causing trouble later.
The only way you're going to figure that out is by just seeing how much load is on there. I mean, in a lot of cases, like I've got a the same heating system in my house, and I don't have any saggy pipes.
Right.
They're all the runs. They come up out of the floor and they go back down, and I could remove my back plates, and there'd be nothing would happen. On other hands, I've seen situations where there's a long run, and it's going to move. And so if it was me, I would just get some L brackets, like 2x2s. I just screw it to the back wall and up underneath the pipe to give it support.
Well, good. I'll look into that. I'll take the whole thing apart again, and I'll take a look to see how it's being supported. So I think it is supported a little bit by those brackets that hang off of the back plate. So I'm gonna hang up now, Paul. But thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Have a great weekend, and if you need any other help, just give us a shout.
Okay, so I should just do a search for dummy enclosure on Google, or do you have an idea what manufacturer you might recommend?
Yeah, you can. I'm pretty sure like Home Depot, even Lowe's has like the hydronic enclosures. So use the word hydronic, and hydronic enclosure.
Yeah, I just got off the phone with Lowe's, and it was rough kind of dealing with them. They did not have any enclosures at Lowe's. They said they're out of stock.
Yeah.
So
a lot of like local plumbing supply stores. So these are places where maybe your plumbers would go. They will have these. So that's also something you could do on Monday or Tuesday. Just find the closest plumbing supply store. They're like, I want to say $4 to $6 a foot.
$4 to $6 a foot. Okay, I'll write that down. But thank you so much for calling me back on a Saturday. I really appreciate your time.
No worries.
All right, sir.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
So why are all these corporations going out of their way to avoid fixing heating systems with hazardous paint? Just take off the front and buy a new front heating plate from us and just hang that over the problem. And that's what Lowe's has to offer you. That is what Home Depot has to offer you. And that is what Vent and Cover, that specializes in this, has to offer you. So it seems to me, at all these large corporations, is that none of these people have ever heard about lead paint, or why anybody will want to replace their heaters because they have lead paint on it, and how to do that correctly. So all these companies are inept and negligent at the very best. So in conclusion, you could see the blue lead paint on every one of these blades, or fins as they are called. You could see it on the pipe between the fins. So if you find lead paint on any part of your heater, you need to replace the whole thing. You need to call up a plumber to cut these pipes out and replace everything new. If you don't have money to replace the whole heating system, just do what I did. Try to get off that wax and that junk that seems to have been applied to the front of these heaters. And then spray paint over them. That will eliminate at least some of the rust that is coming off of the lead paint. And then, when you have the money, you need a whole new heating system. So they're going to remove every part of it, from the pipe to the blades to the enclosure, and everything needs to be replaced. So that is more information than you are going to hear from your U.S. government. That is more information than you are going to hear after paying a house inspector to come inspect your house. And that is more information than you are going to hear from the experts, the professionals at all these large corporations.